Here we are, guys, in part 23 of this story. In the Land of Waves, our favorite blonde encounters the Kyuubi. Watch the subsequent events unfold as Naruto uses the power that was sealed inside of him on the day of his birth. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Now, let's begin. Cheers filled the stands as the next two competitors took the arena. This was the second of the three anticipated matches, a Hyuga and Kumo's own taijutsu prodigy. Ever since the Hyuga incident, 10 years ago, the citizens of Kumagakure have practically hated the Hyuga. The Hyuga had killed their head ninja in cold blood on that night, and worst of all, when a deal was cut between the two nations, the Hyugas sent some fake body double of the Hyuga leader, who just so happened to be in Kumagakure at this moment. However, now was their chance to get their revenge on the Hyuga. There were two Shinin who they were counting on to have the ability to take care of a Hyuga. One was Yugi Ito, the other was the very person in the arena right now. In the stands, Naruto could feel it. He could feel all the tension in the stands and all the anger the Kuma population was letting out. It even got to a point where he had to try and cut off the Kyuubi's chakra due to what Kurama deemed negative emotions overload. However, there was one source of negative emotions that Naruto had managed to pick up that really caught his attention. Hiyashi. Hiyashi-sama, is everything alright? Asked Naruto. Yes, everything's fine, replied Hiyashi. Naruto could easily tell Hiyashi was lying, and he didn't even need the Kyuubi to do so. I'm sorry, but something's bothering you. I can sense it, replied Naruto. What makes you think you can read me, Naruto? Asked Hiyashi. It's an ability I get from Furball, called negative emotion sensing, responded Naruto. Hiyashi's eyes snapped open. So Naruto's managed to obtain that ability, thought Hiyashi. The only other person he knew who could do that was Uzumaki Mito, the first Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Then I don't need to explain anything to you, as you can already feel it. I can. But why? Asked Naruto. Because Kumo has a deep hatred for my clan, and you know the story behind it. I believe Neji told you 6 months ago, replied Hiyashi. Naruto began understanding. As a clan leader, I've probably made a stupid mistake allowing anyone in my clan to come here, but as a father, I couldn't let my daughter's confidence suffer as she has worked so hard to improve it. Well, Hinata will do fine, said Naruto. Hiyashi simply nodded as he still kept some worries secret. Down in the arena, the two opponents faced each other and B signaled the start of the fight as Hinata activated her dojutsu. Umo made the first move, rushing towards his opponent at high speeds and appearing before her with a clenched fist, taking a shot towards Hinata's solar plexus. Had it not been for the training Hinata had done over the past month, she would not have been able to react quick enough to block it. Hinata brought her hands up just in time to block the attack, as it sent her sliding back. What strength? Commented Naruto. Yes, he does the same thing that Sakura does, focusing chakra into his arms to increase the strength of his attack, replied Guy. Naruto cringed slightly, knowing how powerful Sakura could get with her punches. Be careful, Hinata. Back in the arena, that last attack of Umo's had given Hinata some room to be able to prepare a defense, and she was now parrying Umo's attacks using the defensive form of the Juken while trying to strike at an occasional Tenketsu point. However, Umo was quick in dodging most of her jabs. Those that he couldn't dodge, he would block with an open palm, having his hand take the chakra blast instead of the rest of his body. Umo sent a quick punch at Hinata, who was forced to block this attack, only to have Umo's knee slammed up into her stomach as her defenses suddenly broke down, and Umo was able to deliver another blow to the middle of her chest which sent her rolling back. Hinata was able to recover quickly after that, but those two attacks had hurt and she was starting to pant. As she made her way to her feet, Umo was quickly heading towards her and Hinata had to act fast before he was upon her. Protection of the 8 trigrams. She called out, moving her hands in a rapid flurry and unleashing her defensive shield. Umo skidded to a stop before making contact with the shield, but his forearms hit the sphere of chakra and he was left with a few deeper gashes on them due to the cutting nature of the wind chakra. Jmyuken, 8 trigrams, 64 bombs. Called out Hinata as she went on the offensive, striking Umo with 64 rapid strikes to his Tenketsu. Yeah. Way to go, Hinata. That got him, shouted Naruto from the stands, as Umo was blasted back. If he looked over, he would have seen Hiyashi tense up. Hee, is that the best the fabled Hyuga clan has? Laughed Umo, getting to his feet. What? Shouted a surprised Naruto from the stands. Wait, didn't Hinata's attack it? Naruto looked over towards Hiyashi for answers. Hiyashi was not happy indeed. Umo had somehow found a way to combat the Juken. It did, but before she landed the attack, he was able to exert chakra bursts from his Tenketsu. As Hinata's chakra entered his system, they met the chakra bursts and were cushioned to a point where they were no longer at full power, growled Hiyashi. Then that means, said Guy. Yes, he can fight the Juken. Hiyashi was not happy at all. It's not as good as Neji or Hinata, but he has pretty good chakra control to the point where he can send small bursts from his tenketsu. I hate to admit it, but Kumo's actually found a way that gives them a chance to combat the Juken. I'll need to work on a way to fix this. Hinata looked on in shock as Umo got to his feet. She was sure she got all 64 hits to hit a tenketsu, yet her Byakugan was only showing maybe 8, 10 at most. Tenketsu closed. "Hey, your Juken won't work on me," replied Umo. Taking advantage of Hinata's surprise, Umo rushed forward and landed a strong hit in Hinata's solar plexus, throwing the girl back, knocking out the wind out of her, and causing Hinata to cough up a bit of blood. "Now then, about those eyes of yours." "What?" shouted Hiyashi from the stands. Was her competitor really going to try and take Hinata's eyes in this fight? "Figures she would be the reason we lose the Byakugan," said Iroh a few rows back. "She always was weak. We should have just had her sealed in the first place. That way, we could just kill her now before her opponent gets his hands on our prized bloodline." "Just shut up," growled Naruto, getting up from his seat and turning to face the Hyuga elder. The Kyuubi-backed ki that Naruto was focusing solely on Iroh sent the poor elder shivering in fear as he almost vomited. Of course, there were other sources of ki, most notably from Hiyashi, Kurenai, and Kiba, and even some from the sweet little Hanabi. "Hinata won't disappoint, Tibio." "Watch your place, demon," threatened Iroh. It was then that Iruka quietly stood up, walked over to Iroh and slammed a good hard punch into the Hyuga elder's face. "Don't ever talk about Naruto like that," threatened Iruka. Needless to say, this earned Iruka a round of applause. All the Konoha people present had begun to respect Naruto a lot more after his match, and they weren't going to let some stuck-up elder with a stick, larger than his ego, shoved deep in his ass insult Naruto. Back in the arena, Hinata made her way to her feet, clutching her side. She most likely had a broken rib after that last hit. "I can't let him hit me. He's too strong to face straight up. And my Juken isn't strong enough to defeat him." "Naruto, no. I can't give up," thought Hinata, steeling herself and turning to face her opponent. Hinata slipped back into her taijutsu stance, only it was slightly different from the traditional Juken. Unlike the traditional Juken, Hinata had her weight on the balls of her feet and not on the heels. Also, instead of her right hand being at the, it was up in front of her with it tucked into her body and the elbow raised. "So you still want to fight?" asked Umo. "Fine. I'll beat you up a little more before clamming those eyes." Umo lunged forward with a fist at Hinata, who in her new stance was able to move backwards with much more ease and spin out of the way of Umo's attack. This little dance continued on for a few more strikes, all of which, Hinata was able to stay out of Umo's way. "Whoa, what's Nizen doing?" exclaimed Hanabi. "Why don't you tell me?" Hanabi replied Hiyashi to his daughter. Naruto also found himself drawn to this conversation as well. "It looks kind of like she's dancing out there," replied the younger Hyuga. "That is definitely different from the Juken, Hiyashi-sama." "What is it?" asked Guy. "We call it the Juo. Hinata has always been a failure at the Juken, I will admit, but recently we discovered that the reason lay in the Juken itself, not Hinata." "Guy-san, from working with my nephew, you're familiar that the Juken has earth elements in it, correct?" Guy nodded at this. "Well, this form of taijutsu that we've begun developing which takes use of Hinata's natural wind affinity." I see. Like the wind, she stays just out of reach," said Guy as he was briefly interrupted. Uma lashed out with roundhouse kick, which Hinata managed to evade once again. This time, however, she saw her opening as she quickly turned and landed 2 strikes to Umo's back. Umo saw this coming and braced himself for the incoming Juken strike by unleashing small chakra bursts from his tenketsu on his back. "And striking when an opportunity presents itself," finished Guy. Hiyashi nodded. "Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee." "Huh? What's that?" asked Naruto. "Sorry, wrong universe." "Okay, weird fox," replied Naruto. As Hinata's attacks landed, Umo immediately grabbed his back in pain and dropped to his knees. "What the hell was that? I was certain I sent chakra bursts to counteract the Juken, but that was like shoving a serrated knife through my side and twisting it," thought Umo in pain. Up in the stands, a certain Hyuga saw what had happened, and he honestly couldn't be happier. "Yeah. Way to go, Hinata," shouted Naruto. Wait, what just happened there?" "The true potential of the Juo that we realized it possesses. Those 2 slight attacks of hers have practically destroyed the chakra network in that area, thanks to the wind chakra she infused in her strikes," replied Hiyashi, examining Umo's chakra network with his Byakugan. The 2 tenketsu points that Hinata had hit, one just below his right shoulder and the other just below the ribs on the right side, looked as if they had been diced into pieces. Whether or not they would recover was unknown. While healing the chakra network wasn't impossible, it was something only the best medics could do, and even to them, it was extremely difficult. "Wow!" exclaimed Naruto. As Umo struggled to his feet, he was trying to comprehend exactly how two mere taps like that could hurt so bad. "That hurt you, bitch? You'll pay." Gate of opening, open. Gate of healing, open. Umo shouted as he opened the first two of the 8 celestial gates. This caused Guy and Lee to raise an eyebrow. "Guy-sensei, did he just?" asked Lee. "It appears you are not the only one able to open gates," Lee replied. Guy. With the increased flow of chakra through his body, Umo was able to ignore the pain in his side caused by Hinata's strikes. However, that didn't mean that the 2 chakra points in his right side began healing themselves. While the initial pulse of chakra had opened all the other closed tenketsu, those 2 remained closed, or possibly destroyed. With a raging fury, Umo charged at Hinata, forcing the Hyuga heiress to frantically dodge his attacks. If it hadn't been for her speed and agility training these past few weeks, there would be no way she would be able to avoid them. But she found herself able to, even if only barely. Hinata ducked underneath one of Umo's punches, placing herself in a crouching position just below her opponent. "Futon, pressure palm," Hinata shouted, driving a palm of compressed wind chakra into Umo's gut and forcing him backwards to give her some necessary breathing room. "You know, I've been wondering about that move ever since Naruto used it. It looks very familiar to one of the Hyuga clan's techniques," replied Hiashi, looking towards Naruto and Asuma for answers. "I'd be lying if I wasn't intrigued by that fact as well, but that jutsu is actually a rather simple wind jutsu that I learned from my sensei. Which makes me think, were there wind users in your clan at any time?" asked Asuma. "I honestly cannot say for sure. If there were, they'd be from the early days of the clan," replied Hiashi. "There are no wind users and there never have been. And your daughter's disgracing the clan by using such techniques," replied the Hyuga elder from a few rows back, earning a glare from, well, most of the people there. "What am I going to do about the Hyuga elders?" replied Naruto. "They're never going to leave Hinata alone. Feed them to the big giant fox in your head," joked Kurama. Tempting. But no," responded Naruto as the 2 soon found themselves in a debate over what to do about the Hyuga elders. After pressure palming Umo, Hinata was not wasting any time. She had heard the stories from Neji about Lee using the gates, and if she waited any longer, there was a good chance she'd be back in the situation she was before. Umo lashed out a sweeping kick at Hinata, hoping to catch her in the head, but she just ducked underneath the attack, striking a few tenketsu in Umo's legs and sending the Kumo ninja collapsing to the ground. The chakra in his legs had been severely cut off, with only one path remaining open for the chakra to flow to the legs through. As such, Umo found himself unable to move the legs effectively and was now unable to get himself to his feet. The match was basically over as Hinata moved towards her opponent and placed a knife against his throat, prompting B to call the match as there was most likely no way Umo would give on his own power. The Kumo ninja couldn't help but glare and growl at the Hyuga, having lost after putting in so much time that he thought that he had come up with a way to fight Hyugas. "Yeah, way to go Hinata," shouted Naruto with the rest of the Konoha populace joining in. Unfortunately, they were soon overtaken as the rest of the crowd, most of which were Kumo, began booing and jeering. "What? Those bastards!" replied Naruto, getting up from his seat, only to be restrained by Hiashi himself. "I told her that this would be the likely reaction should she win." Ever since that day, any relations between our clan and Kumo have been strained to the breaking point. I believe Kumo saw this as an opportunity to prove themselves better than the Hyuga, and as Hinata was the victor, they are taking out their frustration on her, commented Hiashi. "It does not matter if these people dislike me, as long as I make Naruto, father, Hanabi, and my friends proud," thought Hinata before slowly making her way into the stadium to get her injuries checked on. Up in the stands, Naruto had already bolted away from everyone else to find Hinata. Hiashi followed shortly after, only without as much energy. While the Konoha crowd was happy that Hinata was the victor, Kumo was beginning to fume at the defeat of their taijutsu prodigy to a Hyuga. To make matters worse, they didn't have another chance to beat a Hyuga this round as the remaining 2 Hyugas were matched up against each other. Oh well, if one of their shinobi couldn't beat a Hyuga, they'd just have to hope either Neji or Shinji kill one another. Up in the cage box, Suand could feel some heat coming from the Raikage. Umo had mentioned about going for Hinata's eyes. Was the Raikage actually hoping Umo would get them? Thought Suand. If this was the case, then things were not looking good and long-buried tensions were beginning to show themselves. Neji and Shinji took the field. Neji knew what to expect. He knew Shinji would use the seal on him, and honestly he didn't really care right now. The fate of the Branch family had always been to cower away at the first mention of the seal, but he was going to defy that fate and stand. Despite having accepted Hinata, Hanabi, and Hiashi, Neji still bore a strong resentment for the main branch families over their treatment for the branch families. If anything, he was determined to make a statement here, that the only thing keeping the branch in their place was the seal itself, and once that was gone, those main branch assholes were screwed. B signaled the start of the fight and Neji was off at an unbelievably quick speed, probably just a little faster than Lee with his weights. Before Shinji could even react, Neji was upon him and a few quick strikes were thrown at the main branch Hyuga. "You are within my field of divination," Neji called out. Jmyukan, 8 trigrams, 128 palms. Neji struck Shinji with the upgraded form of the 64 palms and Shinji felt the chakra flowing through his body become severely limited. But that wasn't the end of it. Kaiden. Neji spun, unleashing his most powerful Kaiden ever, throwing Shinji halfway across the arena. Shinji was seriously hurting right now. Neji had landed a series of over 130 attacks on him in less than 15 seconds. How dare that branch member use main branch techniques? "No, he will pay," said Shinji as Neji ran towards his opponent. "Hinata!" shouted Naruto, wrapping his arms around his girlfriend. "That was amazing." Ouch. Hinata cringed in pain a little as Naruto loosened his bear hug on her. "Sorry," replied Naruto, rubbing the back of his head. "No, it's okay," replied Hinata. "No, it's not. I completely forgot that you might have broken a rib out there. I should have been more gentle," replied Naruto. "Come on, let's go find Shizune and get you fixed up." "There you two are, father," replied Hinata. She could immediately see that her father was proud of how she handled herself out there. He joined the pair as they walked towards the infirmary. "I am proud of how you handled yourself out there and how well you seem to adapt well to that new style," replied Hiyashi, making Hinata smile warmly. "Yeah, that was so cool. It was like you were dancing out there. You were amazing," replied Naruto. Now Hinata was starting to blush. "Thank you," said Hinata, slipping back into her stutter slightly, completely unsure of how to react. "I felt a lot better fighting like that. It just felt more natural." "I see. Honestly, it reminds me a lot of how your mother used to fight, and that's actually where I got the form from," replied Hiyashi. "Wait, I thought Hinata's mother was a Hyuga. If so, then why did she have a different taijutsu form?" asked Naruto as the three arrived at the infirmary that Shizune had set up for the Konoha competitors. While Shizune was bandaging Hinata up and checking her over, Hiyashi explained the answer to Naruto. "Her mother, my wife, was not from Hyuga clan. She was married into the clan. As such, she never learned the Juken, nor did she have the Byakugan. However, that form you just saw was her mother's taijutsu form, was known as the Maisho. As a fighter, she was one of the few who could go up against a Hyuga in taijutsu. It really was something incredible, watching her fight. It was like she was floating through the air, aloof and untouchable, but when she struck, the results were devastating. Her mother was also the source of her wind chakra. In reality, she is more of her mother's daughter than she is mine, and I have been treating her like she was mine all this time. And for that, I have been a fool," explained Hiyashi. "Hey, don't beat yourself up too hard. Everything's all better now. You love your daughter and she loves you, so that's all in the past now," replied Naruto. "All better. Just try and take it easy for a few days," said Shizune as she led Hinata out of the room. "Perhaps ask Sakura if she can heal you a little in the evenings if you don't see me. Now I know you want to get back to watching the matches, so go ahead." "Thank you," Shizune bowed Hinata. "Let's go. I bet Neji's kicking ass right now," declared Naruto. At that time, they heard a pain-filled scream rip through the stadium, Neji's pain-filled scream to be exact. "Nahiniazan," shouted Hinata as she ran off towards the entrance to the field, leaving both Naruto and Hiyashi in the dust. Shinji struggled to his feet as Neji fell to his knees. Shinji had activated the caged bird seal just before Neji could continue on with his assault. "Stay down there," said Shinji in an authoritative voice. "You are nothing more than a branch member. Wasn't it always you complaining about fate? Well, this is your fate. No matter how hard you struggle, you will always be beneath me." Neji's screams could be heard throughout the stadium and a few of the Kumo members in the audience were actually enjoying the Hyuga prodigy's pain. They honestly didn't care who won this match, so long as a Hyuga suffered, and it was looking to be that way so far. As Shinji's words began echoing throughout Neji's head, he did something no one would have expected. Neji stood, fighting the pain of the seal. "I have learned that fate is not certain. If one is strong, they can forge their own fate," grunted Neji as the pain in his head intensified. Suddenly, for some reason, the pain stopped. Had Shinji released the seal, or was he dead, were the thoughts going through Neji's head. When Neji managed to look up, he saw Hinata standing in front of him and Shinji on his ass. "Well, isn't this something?" The pathetic failure of an heir has come to a measly branch member's rescue, mocked Shinji. Call me pathetic, call me a failure, call me a lose, call me whatever you want, but don't you dare insult those close to me. Responded Hinata with more resolve than anyone could have thought possible of her. If Neji's so pathetic and weak, why did someone as strong and powerful as a main branch member have to resort to using the seal? He needed to be put in his place. And it's only a matter of time before you're in the same place he is, replied Shinji. Hinata-sama. Why? I could have. Replied a weak Neji. No. Even if you somehow managed to beat him, the elders wouldn't have approved and you would be subject to the seal when we return. There is no way I could let you suffer that, replied Hinata. After all, you are like a brother to me and I care just as much for you as I do Hanabi-chan or even Naruto. Hey yo, sorry brothers, but I have to call the show, said B. Hyuga. Shinji wins. There was no applause for Shinji. The Kumo that hated the Hyugas were too busy fussing over how the same Hyuga who had beat their prodigy earlier had stopped the suffering of another Hyuga, while those who were more or less indifferent couldn't believe that Shinji had won in such a way that he did. I understand. Thank you, Hinata-san, said Neji before losing conscious. He was caught by Hiyashi before he could fall to the ground. To be able to fight through the seal like that, your boy really is something, Hisashi. I'm sorry, but Jiraiya-sensei is still trying to figure out how to remove it. The moment that comes, I promise I will have Neji's seal removed, Hiyashi thought, looking up towards the heavens. His attention then turned to Shinji. The way in which you won was very disgraceful to both you and the clan. I expected better, but it seems I was mistaken. Should you ever activate the seal again on any member of the clan, I will have you sealed and banished, if not worse. Shinji cringed at the clan head's threat as he walked off the field. As he walked into the tunnel, he came face to face with the red-eyed Naruto. You'd better pray we don't meet in the next round, because if we do, you'll regret that. In fact, if I were you, I'd really be praying you don't face Hinata. After what I just saw, she'd be the last person I'd want to face in your situation, threatened Naruto, adding a little more demonic chakra to drive the point home with Shinji. Shinji walked away as Hiyashi passed by as well, carrying Neji. Hinata stopped by Naruto and gave him a worrying hug, and Naruto saw that she was crying. I am sorry that you have to deal with someone like that, said Gaara as he came through the tunnel to his match. It's not your fault he's such an ass, but believe me, he will pay. T-by-o, replied Naruto. Now, good luck out there and kick some ass. Thank you, Naruto, said Gaara as he walked out into the arena, and Naruto and Hinata made their way to the stands. So how is Neji? Asked Sakura. Father says he'll be fine. He'll need to rest his head for a bit though, replied Hinata. Down in the arena, the fight started with Gaara sending out a wave of sand towards his opponent. Raiten, Electro Pulse, shouted Gaara's opponent, Yakimaru. By clapping his hands together, Yakimaru sent out a weak pulse of electricity that caused Gaara's sand to drop to the ground. While that attack may not have been powerful enough to do any real damage to Gaara, it was enough to disrupt the chakra in his sand. Shortly after, Gaara managed to regain control of his sand. I see, replied Gaara. Sand lightning needles, said Gaara as his sand rose and then showered down upon the field as dozens of forked sand needles stuck into the ground. Gaara then sent his sand towards Yakimaru again. Fine, let's try this on for size. Raiten, static discharge, shouted Yakimaru as he gathered electricity in his hands and shot it towards Gaara. However, the bolt of lightning quickly diverged from its targeted path and went straight for one of the sand lightning rods, being absorbed into the ground, and a surprised Yakimaru was blasted with Gaara's sand. Surrender, replied Gaara as the sand wrapped around Yakimaru. Hey, you think this little ball of sand can hold me? Bluffed Yakimaru. Gaara simply clenched his fist and the sand tightened its hold around Yakimaru, maybe crushing a rib or two. I'll give you one last chance. Surrender, or I crush you, said Gaara, tightening the sand just a little more for emphasis. Oh ow ow. Fine, I give, surrendered Yakimaru. B called the match in Gaara's favor. There were a few cheers coming from the Konoha and Suna sections, but otherwise, nothing, as Gaara simply walked off the field. As of now, Kumo was 1-3 and the tension could be felt throughout the crowd. Thankfully for them, Yakuro was up next. He was another prodigy of Kumagakure and surely he could win them another victory. Alright. It's Sasuke's turn, declared Naruto. Everyone heard a deafening shriek coming from next to them and they saw its source as Ino. Sorry, force of habit, apologized Ino. So Kakashi-sensei, anything you want to tell us? Asked Naruto. Yep, watch, said Kakashi. Naruto and Sakura sweat dropped at Kakashi not really saying anything. Out in the arena, Sasuke and Yakuro faced each other. You know, I'm not as lame as my teammates. To me, you really are a weakling, commented Yakuro. So you may last a few seconds longer, I'm still going to kick your ass, replied Sasuke. Let's go. Yeah, shouted B, signaling the start of the fight. Sasuke activated his eyes as he and Yakuro charged at each other, Yakuro's sword in his hand, and a kunai for Sasuke. As the two clashed, the sound of clanking metal echoed throughout the stadium. Kaden, Phoenix Sage Fire Jutsu, said Sasuke as he unleashed a barrage of fireballs at Yakuro. Suten, Water Wall Encampment, said Yakuro as he formed a defensive wall of water in front of him, cancelling out Sasuke's attacks. A cloud of steam erupted when the two jutsu collided and Yakuro came charging through the cloud with his sword at the ready. Sasuke parried the sword and returned a punch to Yakuro's gut, sending the Kumo ninja back. Yakuro growled. Suten, Uplifting Wave. Yakuro slammed his hands into the ground beneath him and a large surge of water appeared from it, blasting Sasuke back into the wall of the arena. Yakuro then began to walk towards the drenched Sasuke and placed the tip of his sword against Sasuke's neck. Told you were weak, mocked Yakuro. And you're even more of a baka than Naruto if you thought I'd lose this easily, replied Sasuke. Suddenly, Sasuke began to crackle with electricity as his entire body began to disappear in a flash of electricity. In this flash of electricity, Yakuro got shocked himself as he was standing in the same puddle that Sasuke had been lying in. Kakashi-sensei, what kind of clone was that? Asked Naruto. Raiden, Shadow clone, replied Kakashi. In that cloud of steam, Sasuke went off to set something up while he gave Yakuro a lightning clone to deal with. Yakuro shook off the electricity just in time to turn and see a barrage of fireballs coming towards him again. Hey, this again? Suten, Water Wall Encampment. Like last time, a defensive wall of water was shot out of Yakuro's mouth as it intercepted Sasuke's attacks. However, within the fireballs, Sasuke had concealed shuriken, which managed to make it through the water, and Yakuro found himself trying to dodge about a dozen shuriken. Two managed to hit Yakuro, one in his right thigh and the other in his right side of the abdomen. Kaden, Dragon Fire Breath, shouted Sasuke from the wall above Yakuro, sending a pillar of flames straight down on the Kari ninja. Yakuro just barely managed to dodge the attack, burning his right foot slightly in the process. Damn it. Take this. Ranton, Laser Circus, shouted Yakuro as he used his Kekkei Genkai. From his hands, half a dozen beams of energy shot outward towards Sasuke. HN. Raiden, Epicenter of the Storm. As Sasuke finished his jutsu, multiple bolts of lightning came down from the sky and surrounded Sasuke as they worked their way outwards, intercepting and blocking Yakuro's attack. In the cage box, Tsunade was admiring the stunned look on the Raikage's face. What? How the hell did he get the jutsu? Shouted a furious Raikage, slamming his hand into his chair and busting the arm. Down in the stands, Kakashi couldn't help but smile upon hearing this. Kakashi-sensei, what was that technique? Asked Sakura, Epicenter of the Storm. It was a technique that Kumogakure treasured as one of their secret techniques and one that I managed to copy from a Kumo shinobi back in the Third War, said Kakashi with a nice smile. It's an A-rank lightning jutsu that creates a cylindrical wall of lightning, which progresses outwards for a range of about 5 to 10 meters. While it seems like a defensive jutsu, it's also a good offensive jutsu if your opponent is within those 5 to 10 meters. Seriously, it's like no one knows what not to do when there's a Sharingan around. Throughout the stands, a good portion of the Kumogakure shinobi were in shock that one of their beloved jutsu had been stolen. Sasuke merely smirked at Yakuro's stunned expression. Soon, Yakuro's expression turned to one of rage as he began losing his cool. Ranton, Laser Circus, he shouted, even louder this time and focusing more chakra into his attack. This time, about a dozen laser beams shot outwards and struck Sasuke. Hey, got you this time, bastard, grinned Yakuro. That grin instantly disappeared when he saw Sasuke just standing there, completely unharmed and smirking back. What's the matter? Is that all you have? Taunted Sasuke. Yakuro charged at Sasuke in a blind rage, impaling Sasuke with his sword, only for Sasuke to disappear into thin air. And to think, I was actually hoping you'd be a challenger, replied Sasuke. Yakuro turned around to see Sasuke right behind him as he slashed with his sword, only for Sasuke to disappear again once his sword sliced through. What? Yakuro's eyes grew wider. I see, Genjutsu. Kai. Yakuro dispelled the Genjutsu that Sasuke had placed him under, but it was too late. When his vision finally cleared, he felt a tingling sensation at the back of his neck and the sound of chirping birds right behind his ears. Looks like you've finally figured it out. Too bad it's a little too late, said Sasuke. I suggest you surrender if you don't want to know the sensation of having 1,000 birds shoved through your head. Yakuro could only growl. Sasuke had beat him, and he had done it by not only stealing a jutsu from Kumo, but also made him look like a complete fool. You're going to pay. Bastard. Yakuro. being foolish, stepped away, turned and swung his sword at Sasuke, not actually wanting to kill Yakuro, although it really wouldn't have bothered Sasuke that much. Sasuke cancelled the Chidori, ducked underneath Yakuro's swing, activated his flame step, kicked Yakuro into the air, shadowed him and used the flaming lion's barrage to knock Yakuro unconscious, and leave a pretty nasty burn on his stomach. B called Sasuke the winner and Sasuke just walked off, under all the booing of the crowd. At this point in time, most of the Kumo citizens were about ready to grab their pitchforks and torches. This was supposed to be their Chunin exams. The exams were their ninja shine, not Konoha's. The first 3 matches were fine. Yugito, one of their shinobi, had won her match. Naruto had managed to stop a rampaging, psychotic Jinchuriki from wiping out half the village with a tailed beast ball, and Lee had won his match against a non-Kumo ninja. The 4th match, in which Sakura won against a Kumo ninja, was not too big a loss, but it offset most of the vibes from Yugito's victory. It was Hinata, the heiress of the Hyuga clan, beating their taijutsu prodigy that really began to set things off. It then only went downhill from there as Gaara defeated Yakimaru and now Sasuke defeating their second prodigy in the exams. The final match of the day was about to begin with Shino of Konoha vs Omoi. The 2 competitors took the field and Omoi unsheathed his sword as Shino released some of his insects. "So Omoi's a Kenjutsu fight?" asked Kurenai. Kakashi and Guy both nodded. "Good, this should be a pretty easy match for Shino then. So long as his opponent can't sense him." "Man, the crowd's not looking too happy. I better not disappoint them or else they're going to start booing again. And then after that happens, they're going to start rioting because we only won 1 match, and then the riots are going to get so out of control that they're going to start going on a killing spree, and then..." Omoi was snapped out of his thought when B signaled the match to start. Shino began by unleashing a swarm of insects towards Omoi, who jumped backwards away from the cloud of insects. While doing so, he slashed at them with his sword. The insects simply floated around the sword and Omoi already realized that he was at a disadvantage. Almost all of his skills right now relied on his Kenjutsu, and from the looks of it, he would have to get directly to Shino to be effective. At the same time, he knew of Konoha's Aburame clan and their use of insects. He knew that he couldn't let the insects get to him or else they would quickly drain his chakra from him. After a few minutes of running and dodging Shino's insects, Omoi saw an opening and changed his course so that he was heading straight towards Shino. "Cloud style, crescent moon beheading," he said as he swung his sword in a crescent-shaped arc that sliced through Shino. However, he was taken aback when Shino turned out to be a bug clone. Omoi jumped away from the new swarm of bugs, but landed directly in the middle of the swarm that was already chasing him. Shino, who was standing off to the side, ordered his insects to begin draining Omoi's chakra and Omoi soon collapsed on the ground, prompting B to call the match. Once again for a Konoha ninja, Hanabi awoke to find herself tied up and slung over some random guy's shoulder. She wasn't entirely sure what had happened. The last thing she remembered was that she had returned to the hotel room shortly after the conclusion of the first round. Her father had taken her just before the end of Shino's fight to avoid the crowds and they made it back safely. After returning to the hotel room, Hiyashi had to leave the room for a few minutes to go discuss a few things with Iroh, and she was sure she locked the door after he left. As Hanabi turned from the door, to return to the bed where she had some scrolls that she had brought to pass the time, she was suddenly knocked unconscious. When she woke up, she found herself in the situation she was in now, bound, gagged, and blindfolded. Wait, did this person really try to blindfold a Hyuga? The man that was carrying her then threw Hanabi to the ground. From what Hanabi could see, she was surrounded now by about a dozen Kumogakure villagers and the person who kidnapped her was a Kumo shinobi. "I see you managed to get that little pipsqueak of a Hyuga," said one of the villagers. "One way or another, we're going to get back at those damned Hyugas in Konoha as well. They have no right to just waltz in here and do what they did." "To think they could cheat their way through those matches," said another of the villagers. Yep, Hanabi knew she was in trouble now. Anyone could tell that the citizens of Kumogakure were not pleased with the results of the matches, but who would have thought that they'd stoop this low? "Well, Reikage-sama will be pleased when we show up at his office, carrying her. We'll let the other mobs take care of the rest of the Konoha ninja," commented another civilian. Even though she was still blindfolded, she could still see thanks to her dojutsu. Hanabi was desperately looking around now for any sign of help. After a few minutes of searching while the villagers were discussing what sort of reward the Reikage would give them, she was about to give up hope that no one was going to come and save her. That is until she saw a red-tinted chakra up on the roof. The only person she knew with that color chakra was Naruto Niizen, and from the looks of it, it was in fact Naruto. "Hey guys, let's just get her to the Reikage and we'll see what exactly our reward will be," said one of the villagers, ending the discussion. The rest of them nodded and Hanabi was picked back up and thrown over someone's shoulder. However, Before they could head out, an explosion of smoke appeared around them. By the time the smoke cleared, the villagers saw that Hanabi had been replaced with a large sack of potatoes on the villager's shoulder. "Naruto Niasen," exclaimed Hanabi as she felt her bindings being cut. When she was able to move again, she had ungagged herself and removed the blindfold. "Man, this place has gone crazy. I try to get a bowl of ramen, which the chef refuses to serve me, and then I almost get attacked," said Naruto. "And on my way back to the hotel, I find you being thrown around by a bunch of villagers." "Hey! Get back here with that," shouted one of the shinobi villagers that Naruto had stolen Hanabi from. "What the hell is wrong with this place?" asked Naruto. "How are we going to lose them?" asked Hanabi. "Don't worry, I've got an idea. Shadow Clone Jutsu," exclaimed Naruto as about 20 Narutos carrying Hanabis on their backs popped into existence. Immediately, all 21 Naruto Hanabis split off, going in different directions and leaving the villagers in the dust, utterly confused. Every Konoha citizen who was still in Kumo at the time was gathered in a large conference room of the inn they were staying at. Almost all of them had also experienced hostile actions from the Kumo populace after the matches concluded. Most of the hostility was simply in the forms of taunts and insults, however there were a few that were attacked by drunken mobs, and one woman was almost raped. Thankfully, she was saved by Shikamaru's shadow possession jutsu and Ino's feared kick in the balls no jutsu. No one was happy, but there was one person who was beyond unhappy. He was furious and ready to kill. "Where is my daughter?" shouted Hiyashi as he entered the conference room. "I'm here, father," said Hinata, emerging from the crowds. She had a bruise on her face from a random outburst by a Kuma villager on her way back to the hotel. Needless to say, that idiot that decided to attack her found himself in worse shape when Sakura retaliated, not letting anyone get away with hurting her friend. The bastard was just lucky that Naruto was not there. That there, nearly started a fight within Kumo and the Konoha people barely managed to get out without things escalating too far. "Wait, Hanabi." The Raikage was overlooking the village from his office. After the matches concluded, the entire village went to hell. No one, not even he, was happy about the results. There was no way Konoha could come in and practically kick Kumo's ass. It was impossible. Kumo was supposed to be the strongest of the 5 great villages and here Konoha made them look like nothing more than a minor village. To make things worse, that Naruto brat turned out to be something more than anyone expected. Naruto had defeated the Rakubi Jinchuriki, a member of Kirigakure, and as such, he was hailed by the crowds. In a way, this was fine as his victory was not over a Kumo ninja. It was how Naruto defeated the Rakubi Jinchuriki that was the problem. Naruto had won, using a Uzumaki seal, one that only a Uzumaki could use. It was certain the last Uzumaki was killed when the Kyuubi attacked Konoha 12 years ago. Before that, Kumo had been a part of the collation of forces that had wiped out Uzoshigakure, leaving only one Uzumaki alive that the world knew of after that. That one Uzumaki was left in Konoha and Kumo had attempted to kidnap her, only to be foiled by the Yellow Flash himself. It was broken from his thoughts by a knock on his office door and what appeared to be a frustrated Tsunade. "What the hell is going on? I'm getting reports left and right from my shinobi that they are finding themselves under attack by Kumo villagers and shinobi alike," shouted Tsunade. "How can you let your villagers act like this? Especially in the middle of an international event. And what do you expect me to do? Arrest half my village?" replied A. "I'd at least expect some form of order. My people have been taunted, attacked, nearly raped, and I've just gotten word of a certain girl who might have been kidnapped. You're the Raikage and this is your village. I expect some form of action to put this unrest to rest," demanded Tsunade. The Raikage just simply sat there, silent. "Wait, you're not just going to sit there, are you?" asked Tsunade, growing increasingly frustrated with her fellow Kage. "Like I said, what do you expect me to do? Arrest half my people?" replied the Raikage. "He's acting like a spoiled little brat. Is this all because my ninja beat his?" thought Tsunade. "I hope you realize that if this keeps up, you'll be in violation of several of the international treaties surrounding the exams and you'll be responsible for whatever actions are taken." "You think your words can threaten me, Tsunade-hime?" asked the Raikage, raising an eyebrow. "If I am correct, I was not the one who provoked this sort of action." "Oh, so that is what this is about. Well, what do you expect me to do? Have my ninja throw their matches? Just so I could satisfy your village's overblown ego?" replied Tsunade in a harsh tone. A slammed his fist down on his desk, breaking it. He then took a deep breath trying to regain his calm. "Tsunade-hime, you saved one of my shinobi a couple years back and if it wasn't for that Uzumaki brat of yours, I would be dealing with an enraged Jinchuriki right about now, so I will fix this problem," said A. Tsunade let out a small sigh of relief, until she heard what I's solution was. Leave. What? Tsunade shouted. You can't be serious. I said, leave. The people of my village are upset because of the presence of your ninja. The only way I can calm them down, is to have Konoha leave. I'll give you till midnight tonight, after that, I will not be responsible for what happens, said the Raikage. Tsunade couldn't believe it, she wanted to laugh, but she was in no mood for laughing. Fine, but the next time someone hands you your sorry ass on a silver platter, or shoves an explosive bug in your comrade's chest, don't come crying to me. On her way out, Tsunade slammed the office door so hard that it shattered and the Raikage turned to continue with his thoughts. I thought we were finally done with those bastards. The night the Ondaime Hokage died to seal the Kyuubi, I thought the plague of the Uzumakis died with him when we heard that the last Uzumaki died on that night as well. The Raikage continued his thoughts, contemplating on the best way to handle the threat of the return of the Uzumakis. Hiyashi-sama, you can't. It's too dangerous out there right now, commented one of the Konoha Chunin that had come to watch the exams. As of now, he was trying his best to keep the enraged father at bay. Hiyashi forced himself out of the conference room and out into the lobby of the inn. Well, what do you expect me to do? I'm not about to leave my daughter out there with those savages, replied a furious father. Speaking of which, where's Naruto? Asked Sakura. Knowing him, he probably went out to find some ramen, commented Sasuke. Naruto, Hanabi? Was all a concerned Hinata could say. Hey, don't worry Hinata. They'll be fine, said Kiba, trying to comfort his teammate. As Hiyashi was about to open the inn's door, a black and orange blur came shooting through, nearly slamming the door in Hiyashi's face. Man, it's crazy out there. I thought the Konoha mobs were bad, but these guys are brutal. I go out for a quick bowl of ramen and I find this being thrown around by a bunch of villagers, commented Naruto, smiling and pointing to Hanabi on his back. Hinata came rushing over, wrapping Naruto up in a tied-up as Hanabi climbed off of Naruto's shoulders. What are you talking about? Konoha doesn't have any mobs like this, commented Kiba. Maybe not for you, but because of, well, yeah, I experience this at least once a year, replied Naruto. Every member in that room was really feeling sorry after hearing that. Most of them had some idea what Naruto went through each year on his birthday, and yet none of them had really done anything to help. While he still wasn't their favorite person, everyone there did have a newfound respect for the blonde after his fight against the rampaging Jinchuriki. Naruto, replied Kiba. No, it's fine. You didn't really know until just recently. But still, what the hell is wrong with these people? Asked Naruto. Yeah, it's like they've all gone wacko, replied Kiba. Before Naruto could add on to the joke, he was interrupted by Hiyashi. Thank you Naruto, for saving my daughter, Hiyashi said, giving Naruto a bow. Hinata also came over and rewarded Naruto with a kiss. A few people awed, Shinji gagged, and Neji and Hiyashi resisted their protective urges to pummel Naruto. However, they would permit it this once, seeing as he was the reason Hanabi was safe. Break it up, you two lovebirds, shouted Tsunade entering the room. Everyone could tell she was pissed at something. Hokage-sama, what's going on? Asked Hiruka. Everyone go and pack your bags, we are leaving, ordered Tsunade. There was a dead pause for a few moments before Naruto managed to break it. What? He shouted. But Hokage-sama, why? Naruto nearly slipped there, but remembered his promise to lay of the buck and stuff for a few months. Just look outside. I'm not about to risk my shinobi all because the Raikage and his village can't keep their inflated egos under control, said Tsunade. Naruto still looked slightly confused. What she means is that we kicked their ass in the matches and they are not happy about it, explained Sakura. Wait, but what about the other round of fighting? Does this mean none of us are going to make Chunin? Asked a concerned Naruto. Just go pack and be back here in an hour, ready to leave. I'll decide what we do about the exams once we get out of Crazy Town, replied Tsunade. Shishu, if I may ask, where are we headed? Asked Sakura. We're going back to Konoha, but we will need to stop along the way. I want to get out of Lightning Country though, so we'll probably be moving constantly for about 2 days. We'll probably make it to some town in the north of Hot Water Country. We'll stop there to rest afterwards, explained Tsunade. An hour later, all Konoha shinobi, and the few civilians, who had made it to Kumo for the exams were gathered in the same lobby, all their gear packed in bags, with the exception of Team 7. Look at you three, think you're so cool for sealing your stuff away instead of carrying it on your back, teased Kakashi. All 3 members of his team let out a little smile. Right. Let's get a move on it, shouted Tsunade. After all, we don't want to keep from ruining the bastards' parties. As the entire Konoha collation, consisting of roughly 120,130 individuals, left the inn, almost every citizen outside was waiting for them, glaring at them. They were everywhere and there were no paths, save one, a path to the gates of the village. As some would call it, a walk of shame, although the Konoha populace held their heads up high as they realized that pissing Kumo off this bad was an accomplishment, something that had not been achieved since the time of the Yondaime. After nearly 2 days of traveling, the Konoha caravan arrived in the capital city of the Land of Hot Water, Nagastuchi. Nagastuchi was a rather beautiful capital city with a rather large palace at the center of the city. However, what really caught most people's attention were the hot springs scattered throughout the city. After a continuous 2 days worth of traveling, everyone needed a chance to relax, and many of this city's luxuries would give them such an opportunity. Before they could do whatever they want, Tsunade spoke. Konoha is about a day and a half away if we keep up the same pace we did. We'll leave tomorrow at 1 p.m., giving you plenty of time to rest. After that, it's going to be a straight shot for Konoha. Any questions? Asked Tsunade. Yes, I hope it wouldn't be too bothersome if we join you, said a familiar voice coming from behind the group. I see you guys got kicked out of Kumo as well? Asked Tsunade. The Sand Trio and their sensei nodded. The rest of you are dismissed, but I want the 8 exam participants to remain here for a moment. Gaara, Tamari, the 2 of you may join in as well if you want. What is it, Shishu? Asked Sakura. The rest of the Konoha 12, the Sand Trio, and their respective senseis had stayed behind to wait for their friend students. Concerning the exams, the 10 of you have 2 options. 1, you could call it quits right now and be judged on just the first round. Or 2, we can hold one more round of matches in the Konoha Stadium and you can give it one last chance to impress the judges, and in front of a more receptive crowd, explained Tsunade. The choice is up to you, but I need to know now if I should have the stadium being prepped. We'll take the second option, declared Naruto, speaking for everyone. Well, looks like the Gaki is speaking for all of you. Is everyone okay with that? Asked Tsunade. There were absolutely no objections. Very well, it'll take at least a week to make all the necessary arrangements, so use the time to rest and prepare. Oh, and speaking of which, there is a wonderful resort on the southern end of this town that has wonderful outdoor springs and excellent food. I suggest you go there if you're hungry. During the time while Tsuand was distracted, a certain white-haired man used this opportunity to sneak off. After all, this city was known for its hot springs and there were a lot of hot springs that needed researching. Tsunade was right. The resort she had recommended to the Konoha 12 and the Sand Trio was amazing. They arrived, hungry and exhausted, after traveling non-stop since being kicked out of Kumo. Not to mention, Neji was still suffering from a pretty bad headache from having the seal used on him. At first, they were a little depressed that it would take an hour for their meal to be prepared, but a quick bath before dinner instantly put that to rest. There was something about the mineral content of the springs that just made them so relaxing and soothing. And if it wasn't for Kuji's stomach, they probably wouldn't have gotten out at all. The food only helped make the night more enjoyable. You know, I'm kind of starting to like these group dinners, said Sakura. It's actually nice just to sit down and have fun every now and then. Yeah, and that means we should piss off Kumo more if this is what we get for doing so, commented Naruto, earning the laugh from most of the table. Speaking of which, what do you think happened to everyone else? Asked Sakura. I mean, Gaara and Tamari are with us, leaving just the Kumo ninja and Fu. I honestly don't see that Goiku guy moving anytime soon after what Naruto did to him. Naruto grinned and rubbed the back of his head. Well, it's not my fault he went berserk, defended the blonde. Anyways, I still can't believe you guys did that to Kumo. I mean, sure, you kicked their ass, but that shouldn't give them any right to just throw us out. That was most unyouthful of them, commented Lee. At least, Tsunade-sama said we could finish the exam at home, added Neji. Yosh. I look forward to testing my youth against any one of you, exclaimed Lee. That's the spirit, Lee. Called out Guy from the next booth over where all the Jonin were sitting. Oh brother, said Tenten, face palming herself. Anyways, Sakura's right. Stuff like this is enjoyable and it's kind of like what we did after the second exam. Even Sasuke had to agree with that. This was rather relaxing, and best of all, he no longer had to worry about screaming fangirls as Zeno had given up on being a fangirl. Yeah, I'd suppose the only one missing would be Fu. She seemed like a nice girl. I really hope she does well, said Hinata. Oh my god, that flying ability of hers was so cool, said Dino. I wonder how she does that? Munch, maybe we could visit Taki-some. Munch, Daikuji said, while stuffing himself with food. Naruto? You okay? Asked Hinata. The moment Kuji mentioned Fu and Taki, Naruto tensed up for some reason. Yeah, I think so. It's just, never mind, he replied. What's the matter? Is this about Fu? She wasn't that bad, and Hinata's right, she's actually kind of nice, commented Ino. It's got nothing to do with Fu. Although it kind of does, said Naruto. Perhaps it would be best to tell them, said Shino, grabbing Naruto's attention. Are you sure? asked Naruto. Yes. We all consider her a friend, right? Everyone nodded, slightly confused, at Shino's question. While they didn't know her all too well, they all saw her as a rather nice and friendly person, even if she did keep to herself a little. Then you should know this her friends. That would only help her to know that she has true friends somewhere out there. What do you mean? It's sounding like she has no friends in Taki, said Sakura. Sakura, you remember that mission? You know, the one that went horribly wrong. We had to escort Shibi, the leader of Takiga Corps, back to the village, said Naruto. Yeah. I'd rather not. But what does this have to do with Fu and not having any friends? Asked Sakura. Shibi was the only person in Taki she could call a friend, until Orochimaru had to be a bastard and take him away from her. In Taki, she has no friends and everyone hates her. They see her as something else, something that she carries and that they all fear, said Naruto. Why is this conversation sounding familiar? Asked Sakura. Yeah, it's like we just had it a month ago, only Naruto was referring to himself. Wait, you don't mean a few people suddenly realized what Naruto was referring to? They had in fact heard this conversation before. Naruto had told them practically the same thing when he told everyone that he was a Jinchuriki. Gaara's the Jinchuriki of the Ichibi, I'm the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. But you all knew that, said Naruto. Fu is in fact, the Jinchuriki of the Nanabi. Actually, that's where she gets her flying ability, kind of like Gaara's sand and my regeneration. To say everyone was stunned would be an understatement. It was at this time when the Jonins joined the conversation after hearing the word Jinchuriki. She's really a Jinchuriki? Asked a surprised Kurenai. Naruto and Shino both nodded. Now that you think about it, that explains the incident back in the Konoha prelims when that red chakra began to emerge, commented Kakashi. Damn, if her life is as bad as yours was, then I can't help but feel sorry for the poor girl, said Kiba. Is there anything that could be done to help her? I can't imagine having to live in a village where everyone hates you, asked Tenten. Both Naruto and Gaara shot her a look. Sorry, I actually wish there was. If she were a normal ninja, there would be more options, but if she's a Jinchuriki, then that makes things much more complicated, said Asuma. What the hell do you mean? How does being a Jinchuriki complicate things? Asked Kiba. It just does. Most of the people in a village simply see us as the plague and want us to disappear, explained Gaara. However, there are those, usually in a position of power within the village, that will never let that happen. To them, we are nothing more than ultimate weapons and they won't let us get away. That's just wrong. How could people be so unyouthful? Asked Lee. I'm sorry, but it's true. There are even people in Konoha that would have tried to turn me into a mindless weapon had it not been for Sandaime Gigi, explained Naruto. At some point in time, Jiraiya had explained to him that an old politician Warhawk named Danzo had tried to turn Naruto into a soulless puppet to be used as a weapon. Needless to say, Naruto was unhappy to hear that there were actually those kinds of people in Konoha, but he began to understand the reason why his agreement with the Kyuubi was being kept a secret, even if the secret was slowly getting out. But those who knew were trusted friends. As for why the rest of the village wants to get rid of us, it's because they see us for what we contain, not who we are. We live our lives, wondering why everyone hates us, searching for something to fill the emptiness. That loneliness is enough to drive one insane. But all you need is that one person. Someone to open up and show you just an ounce of compassion. I consider myself lucky because I have all of you, and you've even opened up to Gaara here. But Fu, she's got no one, explained Naruto. Wow. Just wow, said Kiba. No one could ever imagine Naruto to be so deep. Hinata tightened her grip on him. She knew his pain to some extent as her entire family had practically shunned her when she was younger. It was Naruto that kept her going and not giving in. Sasuke was also aware of how that pain felt after his entire clan was murdered. After that, he was alone, and thought that no one understood his pain. As such, he kept everyone out. And some people began to avoid him until Naruto came along and he began to open up. While it wasn't to the same extent as Naruto, both of them had a small understanding of what Naruto was talking about. The only person who could say that they had it worse was Gaara, and that was because even his own family had tried to kill him. Asuma-sensei, is there anything we can do for her? Asked Ino. Without straining relationships between our two villages, no. And even then, I doubt Taki would let us help her. Not to mention, no one from our village has even set foot in Taki and they don't go about allowing outsiders into their village, said Asuma. Don't get me wrong, I want to help, but this is an incredibly complicated situation now. They desperately wanted to help their new friend. They didn't care if she was a Jinchuriki. She seemed nice and there was no way she could be worse than Naruto. They realized that she would return home and suffer. Any bonds that she may have formed over the past month would not be allowed to grow. And that was the most likely scenario. The entire Konoha 12, the Sand Trio, and their senseis wanted desperately to help the poor girl, but found that they would be powerless to do so unless some bizarre twist of fate occurred. After a very relaxing night, and some deep conversations, the entire Konoha caravan was waiting outside the gates to Nagastuchi, with the exception of 2 individuals. "Where is that Gaki and his perverted teacher?" shouted Tsunade. "I think I know where Naruto is, I'll go find him," Hokage-sama said Iruka. Tsunade gave him a quick nod. "Tsunade-sama, you do realize where we are," said Shizune. Tsuan face-palmed herself. "Shizune, Sakura, have a stretcher ready. That pervert had better not be doing what I think he's doing." "Very nice, yes, very nice indeed. The ladies here are perfect," said Jiraiya with a perverted smile on his face. "This research will be perfect for me to start on my next book." Jiraiya had hit the peeping gold mine at the city's largest hot spring. The girls in the hot spring were some of the prettiest he had ever seen, and their assets were just what he needed for the inspiration to get started on his new book. But if there was one that truly caught his attention, it was this one woman. Jiraiya couldn't make most of her appearance out due to the steam from the spring. However, the one thing he could see, which was the most important of them all, was her rather large chest. If he didn't know better, he would say it was almost as big as Tsunade's. And then said woman began to move closer to the hole he was peeping through. "That's it, come a little close. Let Jiraiya get a good look at you. Oh yes, you'll be perfect inspiration for the main woman in my next book." As she got close, Jiraiya could better make out the feminine beauty that was coming towards him. "Oh yeah, that figure is just to die for. It's just like Tsunade's. And that innocent smile on her face, so sweet and cute, just like Tsunade. And those breasts. Oh damn, she's a fine lady indeed. I'd say her chest might even be as big as, oh crap." Before Jiraiya could turn and run, a fist came slamming through the wall and into Jiraiya's face. "Pervert." There were a few shrieks coming from inside the hot spring, but once the other women realized what Tsunade had done, they were thanking the busty Hokage. At the very moment that Shizune and Sakura had their medical equipment set up, a battered Jiraiya came crash landing into the center of the caravan, where Sakura and Shizune were waiting. "Naruto," shouted Iruka, looking for his favorite blonde student. Thankfully, Naruto wasn't too hard to find. The previous night, he had heard Naruto talking about this amazing ramen stand in the capital of the land of hot water. And sure enough, there was Naruto. "Naruto, we've got to get going," said Iruka. "I know, but I almost forgot to get this special ramen for my passport. Please, can I just get one bowl?" begged Naruto. Iruka sighed. "Fine," he said, pulling out a familiar book and handing it to the chef. "Make that 2 bowls of the special." "Coming right up," said the chef. "Wow. You have one too?" asked Naruto. "What the hell is up with all these ramen addicts?" thought Kurama. "Of course I do. And now that I know you have one, that means we can enjoy the Ichiraku special one of these days," smiled Iruka. "Hey, I'm looking forward to that. Only 45 more ramen dishes and then it's Ichiraku," said Naruto. "Wait, you're telling me you haven't gotten the dish from Ichiraku?" asked Iruka. "No, I've decided to save it for last," replied Naruto. "Have you had it?" "Of course I've had it. And before you ask, no, I will not tell you. You're just going to have to wait until you finish the rest of that book," lectured Iruka. "I know. It'll only make it so much better. Can you at least tell me this though? Is it better than the Uzumaki-style ramen Tucci makes?" asked Naruto. "You have no idea. I will say though that it is so much better than anything I've ever tasted," said Iruka. Sadly, that only made Naruto's mouth drool. He couldn't wait. Finally, after some waiting, the chef set their bowls down and Iruka and Naruto shared their first ramen in what felt like months. What really stood out with this ramen was the broth. The water used in the broth actually came directly from a special spring in the mountains, just north of the city, and gave the ramen a rather unique, yet delicious flavor. After finishing their ramen, Naruto and Iruka returned to find a very bruised Jiraiya and a satisfied Tsuan. Naruto already knew what happened. After the few small distractions, they were off, back to Konoha. The caravan of travelers arrived in Konoha in the evening of the following day. Tsunade was impressed that a group of that size was able to travel with such speed. Thankfully, the civilians that were accompanying them were assisted or carried by the shinobi of the group, allowing them to travel at the pace that matched the rest of the group. In a sense, it was good to be back in Konoha after spending a month in Crazy Town. "You're all dismissed. I want those of you participating in the exams to be in my office at 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, and I'll fill you in on the arrangements that have been made. You will have until the fight's off to prepare and rest," said Tsunade, dismissing everyone. The following day, Naruto had gone to Ichiraku for lunch, bringing along Team 8 and the rest of Team 7 with him. Both Tucci and Ayame were intrigued by the stories everyone had to share, especially with how they got kicked out of Kumo. In fact, that was the talk of the town, was how the Konoha shinobi were kicked out of Kumo. The entire village found it hilarious that 8 of their shinobi had made up the majority of the final round and managed to piss Kumo off that much. It also gave them something to celebrate at the same time. "I still can't believe you guys got kicked out of Kumo," laughed Tucci. "I hope you got your passport stamped there, Naruto. If not, then I don't see you completing it anytime soon." "All good. I got it taken care of the very first night I was there," grinned Naruto, holding up his passport. "That makes 4, 1 from River Country, 1 from Greens Country, 1 from Kumo, and I just got the 1 from Hot Water Country yesterday. Only 45 more and I'll be back for your special dish, Tbio. Hey, and I suppose that trip you're leaving on with Jiraiya-sama will give you quite a few more," said Tucci. "That's right, you're leaving soon, aren't you?" asked Kiba. "How long will you be gone?" Uro-sennin said 2 to 3 years. "And he said we'd be leaving sometime shortly after the last round of matches," said Naruto. This only managed to deflate poor Hinata a little. She knew Naruto would be leaving soon, yet she didn't want to face the fact that she would be without Naruto for that long. And Kiba only managed to remind her that that time was coming up pretty soon. "Hey Hinata, what's wrong?" "And nothing," she said. Naruto recognized the slight stutter. While her stutter was practically gone, she did stutter when she was depressed or sad. I just don't want you to leave." Now Naruto was feeling depressed. "Hey, don't worry. I know it's for a few years, but I'll be coming back. I don't necessarily want to leave for that long either, but I have to if I'm going to get stronger," said Naruto, trying to cheer her up. "I'll tell you what. After the matches and before I leave, we'll go on one more big date, okay?" "Well, I guess," she said, teasingly and smiling. "I can't believe I almost forgot about that. Naruto's leaving for a few years and Kakashi-sensei's taking Sasuke away for a few years as well. All while I'm cooped up in the hospital," thought Sakura. She looked over towards Sasuke, who was enjoying his own ramen. "I wonder if Ino was right. I wonder if Sasuke really does have feelings for me. Help, can anyone hear me?" Naruto's head popped up as he heard an unfamiliar voice. "Naruto?" asked Hinata. She tried to get her boyfriend's attention, but Naruto had entered some sort of trance. "Chome? Is that you?" asked Kurama. "Kurama, me," said Chome's voice. However, it was really broken and Naruto and Kurama could barely piece it together. "You're coming through pretty weak," said Kurama. "Fu, danger, dying," was all that could be heard before the metal link was severe. "Naruto?" asked Hinata again, giving Naruto a nudge. She figured he was talking to the Kyuubi, as he usually did this whenever they were in the middle of some sort of conversation. Naruto then snapped back. "Is everything okay?" "No, we've got to hurry. I just got a message from the Nanabi. Fu's in trouble and she's dying apparently," said Naruto. "What?" shouted the remaining 5 members of the group. "If she's dying, we must find her," said Shino. Naruto nodded. "Shadow clone jutsu," he said as a clone puffed into existence. "Go tell Bakken about this and tell her to be ready. We'll send some kind of signal when we find her." The clone nodded and the 6 of them raced towards the west gate of the village. Racing past the gate, this startled the bored Izumo and Kotetsu, who had been placed back on guard duty. "What was that?" asked Izumo. "Looks like teams Kakashi and Kurenai. But where are they going?" said Kotetsu. "Should we inform the Hokage?" asked Izumo. "I don't want to, but we probably should," said Kotetsu as he darted off towards the Hokage's office. A little way out of the village, the group of 6 stopped and Hinata took to the tallest tree around, hoping to be able to see something with her Byakugan. Shino unleashed his insects to search for any hint of Fu's chakra. Naruto created around 100 clones and had them fan out. They weren't sure where Fu was, but Naruto was sure she had to be somewhere in the general area for Chome and Kurama to make a mental connection. "Hey guys, I can smell a small hint of blood," said Kiba, pointing in a direction to the northwest of where they were standing. Hinata focused her Byakugan in that direction. She had about a 5 kilometers range that she could extend her vision up to. Thankfully, she found what she was looking for in that field of vision and it wasn't good. "You see anything, Hinata?" "Yes, 3 kilometers northwest. At the bank of a river." "She's not looking very good," said Hinata. "Right. Let's hurry," shouted Naruto. But Shino was well ahead of them. His insects had picked up on the Nanabi's chakra. "Tsunade-sama," shouted the Naruto clone, bursting into the door. "What is it, brat?" "I wasn't supposed to be bothered for another few hours," shouted a cranky Hokage. "Hokage-sama. Report from the west gate. Teams Kurenai and Kakashi were spotted leaving the village," reported Kotetsu. Now Tsunade looked at the Naruto clone with interest. "You're a clone, "Aren't you?" she asked. The Naruto clone nodded. "Then spill it. Why is your team and teammate leaving the village without my orders?" "Sorry, but one of our friends is in danger and we couldn't wait," said the clone. "Danger? Who? And what sort of danger?" asked Tsunade. "I'm sorry, but can he leave? This is kind of personal," said Naruto, pointing towards Kotetsu. Tsunade motioned for the Chunin to leave, along with the 4 Anbu she had stationed around the office. "Okay Naruto, what's going on?" asked Tsunade. "You know Fu from the exams?" asked Naruto. "That green-haired flying kunoichi from Taki?" Naruto nodded. "Well, she's also the Jinchuriki of the Nanabi, and well, I kind of got a distress call from the Nanabi saying that she was dying. If Furball and the Nanabi can make a mental link, that must mean they are close by, so boss and the others went off to try and find her. He's said to be ready for some sort of signal when they do find her," explained the clone. "Please, she's a friend of ours since the exams. We can't let her die." Tsunade sighed. "Fine. Shizune," she barked. A few moments later, Shizune came barreling through the doors, carrying Titan. "Prepare a medical squad to head out at the first signal." "Tsunade-sama, what exactly are we looking for?" asked Shizune. "A friend is injured and Naruto's gone to find her. I don't know what the signal is, just look for anything unusual," said Tsunade. "Hi," said Shizune as she bowed and left to get the medical squad prepared. "You're lucky brat, I'll let you and your friend's action slide this time because I know you're doing it for a good cause, but I don't want you racing out of the village without my approval again. Got that?" asked Tsunade. "I won't do it again and I'm sorry, but I couldn't wait," said the clone before dispelling. "There," shouted Hinata as the 6 of them came into a clearing on the side of a river. Lying along the bank of the river was a certain green-haired girl that they were looking for. Being the medic, Sakura was the first one over as she began examining Fu. The girl was in really bad shape with 2 kunai embedded in each side of her upper back, a third one on the back, just below the ribcage, and a 4th one lodged into her stomach. Not to mention, she had what appeared to be a broken nose as if someone had punched it. "How is she still alive? These injuries should have killed her, and Taki is a good day and a half up the river," said Sakura. "Kyubi says it's probably because of the Nanabi. While she doesn't have my regeneration, the Nanabi's struggling to keep her alive," said Naruto. "Is there anything you can do?" asked Sasuke. "I don't know. She's fading and I don't know if normal medical jutsu will be enough," said Sakura. "Wait. Use my chakra, or actually Furball's chakra. That might be enough to heal her." It was enough to heal the hole in Sasuke's chest after those sound freaks were killed. As he said that, a one-tailed cloak enveloped him, definitely surprising Kiba and to a smaller extent, everyone else. "So you really do seem to have control over the Kyubi's chakra," said Kiba. Naruto nodded. "Like I said earlier, he's not what everyone thinks about him," replied Naruto. "Naruto, come over here. I'm going to try and channel your chakra into her wounds. At the very least, we can stop most of the bleeding, but she needs to get to a hospital if she's going to have any chance at living," said Sakura. Naruto came over and placed his chakra tail over Fu's wounds as Sakura did her best to guide the chakra to where it needed to be. "Kaden, Great Dragon Fire Jutsu," shouted Sasuke as he shot a giant plume of fire, shaped like a dragon's head, upwards towards the sky. "Hopefully they see that. I'll send another one up in a few minutes." A few minutes passed and Sakura had done the best she could on the wound to Fu's stomach. He now moved upwards to heal one of the wounds in Fu's shoulder, which most likely punctured the lungs. "What the hell happened to you?" asked Sakura to herself. "I don't know, but if any of those bastards in Taki did this to her, they're going to pay," threatened Naruto. "It's amazing she's been able to hold on this long," said Sakura. At this time, Sasuke sent up another fire dragon flare. If the medical corps were coming, they should be here any minute now. "Like I said, it's the Nanabi. She may not give her the same regeneration powers as the Kyubi, but she's most likely the thing that's keeping her alive right now," said Naruto. As Sakura finished up on the right shoulder, she moved down to the wound that most likely punctured Fu's liver. "Naruto. Sakura. They're here," said Kiba as he could smell the medical team getting closer. A few seconds later, Shizune and 2 other field medics appeared at the river bank. Sakura hurried to get some patch work done on the liver and the other shoulder before Shizune and the other medics took off towards the hospital. A few hours later at the hospital, all 12 members of the Konoha 12, San Trio, the Jonin Sensais, Jiraiya and Aburame Shibi were waiting in the waiting area of the hospital when the operation light turned to green, indicating that surgery was over. A few minutes later, Shizune emerged wheeling a gurney table with Fu lying on it, a good sign that she would survive. Tsunade followed shortly after. "How is she?" asked Sakura. "She'll live, but it was a close one. Your clone was probably right, Naruto. If you guys hadn't left immediately, it might have been too late," said Tsunade. "So what's going to happen to her?" asked Kiba. That was something that all of them wanted to know. "Let's talk about that in private," Tsunade said, leading them into a private meeting room. Jiraiya activated the privacy seals for the room. "So thanks to the loudmouth blonde over there, you all know that he is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, and I think you all have a better understanding of what really happened on that night. But that's not why we're here. As I'm sure you've all been made aware of, thanks again to a particular loudmouth blonde." "Hey!" pouted Naruto. "Fu is the Jinchuriki of the Nanabi. We also believe that is the reason she survived her injuries," explained Tsunade. "Now, I am making this an S-rank secret. None of you are to discuss Fu's status as a Jinchuriki with anyone else. I'll leave who should know up to her and myself. Now, because of her status, that makes what'll happen to her a little foggy. But I do have some suspicions. She won't be going back to Taki though, will she? They all hate her there," exclaimed Naruto. "As I said, I don't know what her future holds. We are going to have to wake up and hear from her what exactly happened. Once we know what happened, we'll go from there," said Tsunade. "The politics surrounding Jinchurikis are tricky. You can probably attest a little to that, Naruto." Naruto's head lowered. "Yeah, I know," replied Naruto. "She'll probably be awake in 2 or 3 days. I'll call you in when that happens. Now, you're all dismissed, but those of you in the exams can meet me in my office," said Tsunade. The 9 Chunin hopefuls proceeded to Tsunade's office in the Hokage Tower, finding an irritated Hyuga Shinji waiting outside. Naruto nearly gagged at the sight of him, and just about everyone else there wanted a piece of the Hyuga's ass after the stunt he pulled on Neji. Tsunade led them inside her office to discuss the terms of the next round. "Right, so I have made the necessary arrangements for the exam. They will be in 5 days from now, starting at 1 p.m. in the stadium. Now, I have some good news. While our final exams consist of an elimination tournament, which would mean Neji and Temari are unable to continue, I was able to persuade the Shinobi Council that since the exam originally begun under Kumo's rules, we should continue to follow the format that Kumo uses. That means that as long as Neji and Temari are able to fight, they are allowed to continue," explained Tsunade. Neji and Temari let out a huge sigh of relief. They were unsure if they would be allowed to continue, and they were pretty sure that their matches did not last long enough to impress the judges. "Seeing as there are 10 of you, there will be 5 matches, and those matches will be chosen at random just before the start of the matches. I will say, some of you have already secured your promotion and some of you will need to convince the judges a little more. I suggest you all prepare to fight your hardest. You have until the match is off to prepare, and I recommend using your time wisely. I will see you in the stadium in 5 days." Outside the tower, everyone went their separate ways, leaving Team 7 to themselves. If it ain't Kakashi's brats. Team 7 turned around to see Zabuza and Haku standing behind them. "Haku! Zabuza!" exclaimed Naruto, greeting the former demon of the hidden mist and his apprentice. "Hear you guys pissed of Kumo pretty bad. Nice job," complimented Zabuza. "I also heard you kicked that Goyaku bastard's ass pretty hard." "Hey, we might have done something like that," grinned Naruto. "So what have you two been up to?" Haku and Zabuza lifted their sleeves to reveal a red Anbu tattoo, indicating that they had made the Hunter Nin division of Anbu. "We were afraid our first assignment would have to be to hunt you 3 down after you bolted out of the village," said Zabuza, reaching for his sword. Team 7 let out a nervous gulp before Zabuza released his grip. "We are also preparing for the Jonin trials that are coming up in a few months," said Haku. "Yeah, I've had enough of being a Chunin. I want my Jonin rank back. That way I can go on more exciting missions," complained Zabuza before his attention was diverted towards something. "Well. Oh shit, huh? Is something wrong?" asked Naruto. Immediately, Zabuza took off, running as fast as he could. "Ha! Yosh! Have any of you seen my youthful eternal rival? I wish to see how his flames have grown in the past months," said Guy, running towards the 4 members of Team 7. Everyone's sweat dropped. All of them decided to cut Zabuza a break this time and point towards the direction that he didn't go as Guy ran off proclaiming about youth. 3 days later. "Huh? Where am I?" said weary green-haired girl. At first, the lights in the room began to strain her eyes, but after a few moments, they began to adjust. Am I dead?" "Oh, you're awake," said a female voice. Fu slightly turned her head to see that a nurse was standing in the same room as her. "That's good, the Hokage will want to know. Is there anything you need first, Hokage? Am I in Konoha?" Fu thought. "Yes, we're in Konoha. It was pure luck that I managed to get a hold of Kurama before it was too late," said Jomei. "But hey, I am the lucky 7. How did I?" asked a still weary Fu. "I'll let the Hokage explain that to you when she gets here," said the nurse. "Is there anything you need before I go get her?" Fu asked for a cup of water and the nurse went to notify Tsunade that her patient had awakened. I can't believe they tried to kill me back there. My own team. I thought I was making progress in Taki, I guess. Not Fu thought. She turned her head and had a view out the window. It really did look like she was in Konoha. What caught her attention was a bunch of get well soon cards on the table next to her. However, if anything moved her, it was a picture with her all bandaged and asleep in the hospital bed with the members of the Konoha 12 lined up along the side, smiling and for some reason, holding up 7 fingers. Immediately, she recognized the 7 fingers as a sort of code. Basically that and the smiles amounted to something like "we know, and we don't care. We're your friends no matter what." Friends. I actually have friends here. People who don't want me to disappear or die. There are actually people who really do care for me here. I really am dead, aren't I? Thought Fu as she laid back in the bed. About 30 minutes passed. The nurse had returned once more during that time and informed Fu that the Hokage would be down shortly. It was then that Tsunade came through the door. "So, how are you feeling?" asked Tsunade. "Sore, but, is this a dream? Am I asleep and dying?" asked Fu. "Am I really in Konoha?" Tsunade chuckled a little at this. "No, you're not dying and last I checked this isn't a dream," said Tsunade. "If it was, then Jiraiya would have given up on peeping already." "Huh?" asked a confused Fu. "Never mind. Hopefully you'll never find out, but sadly I doubt that," said Tsunade. "Do they know?" asked Fu, pointing at the framed picture. "Yeah, Naruto told them. He thought they wouldn't look at you any different, and I think he was right," said Tsunade, giving Fu a lot of relief. "They're a special bunch of kids, I'll give them that." So it's true. They really are friends, she thought. Tsunade gave Fu a quick look over. "You guys can come in now," she shouted towards the door. At that time, all 12 members of the Konoha 12, their senseis, and even the San trio came into the room. Thankfully, Fu's room was large enough to accommodate all of them or else they would be cramped. It was a warming sight as she could say that there were people who cared about her for the first time since her late grandfather figure. "Hokage-sama, what's going to happen to me? You're not going to send me back to Taki, are you?" asked Fu. This was something she was worried about as she didn't want to go back. Suan sighed. "That'll depend on what exactly happened that landed you here. You're a Jinchuriki, which could complicate the situation, which is why I need to know every detail on what happened. I promise I'll try to make something work, but I need to know." Fu began to tell her story, although it worried her to no end. It sounded like there was still a chance she could be sent back to Taki, something she most definitely didn't want. Flashback. 2 days had passed since the end of the first round of fighting and things around Kumo were beginning to calm down, as both Suna and Konoha had been kicked out 2 days ago. The Raikage thought it would be best if he just made the final round of the exams between Kumo Ninja only. At least that way, he would have an excuse to promote more than just Yu-Gi-Oh! Fu was sitting in her room of the inn where she was staying at, thinking of the match she had just fought and the match that was coming up. The expulsion of Konoha from Kumo was also fresh on her mind. They had been some of the first people to treat her normal. While she wouldn't train with them during the few weeks of training, there was the occasional night where she would run into a few of them and they would offer if she wanted to join them for dinner or something. It made her feel welcomed and normal, if only for a few hours at a time. Despite losing against Yu-Gi-Oh! In her first match, she still felt like she accomplished something. By being there, she had managed to prove that she was something and was hoping that Shinaki and the other Taki citizens there would look at her differently. However, that match backfired on her. What they saw was the demon inside her trying to take over. She had been talking to the Nanabi more and more ever since Naruto suggested it, and Chome wasn't as bad as everyone thought. She was just misunderstood, kind of like her vessel. Yet, the people in Taki couldn't wrap their heads around the fact that Fu wasn't the Nanabi or that the Nanabi wasn't the monster they had thought she was. She quickly learned that Chome seemed like a happy being altogether, even if she was obsessed with luck and a little too energetic at times. Chome was also the only one willing to train Fu a little, giving the green-haired Jinchuriki the ability to grow wings out of the middle of her back and fly, something that Fu immediately began to love. In fact, if there was anything about being a Jinchuriki that she actually enjoyed, it was that ability. However, to the people of Taki and her teammates, this only reinforced their view that Fu was in fact the Nanabi. As she was in the middle of thought, Fu heard a knock on her door and the voice of her teammate Hikaru on the other side. "Pack up your things, we're leaving, freak." Fu let out a depressed sigh. She didn't want to go back to Taki. In fact, if there was anywhere she wanted to go, it was Konoha. She had friends there and at least 2 people who knew about her status as a Jinchuriki and didn't care. A few minutes later, she headed down to the lobby of the inn, to find her team, Sensei, and Shibuki discussing something. They shot her a glare and she was beginning to have thoughts about what exactly they were discussing. She didn't like said thoughts, but she would have rather preferred them over returning to Taki, where there was a good chance she would be confined away for being influenced by the Nanabi. They left in the early afternoon of that day, and by the end of the day when they stopped to make camp, they were out of the land of lightning. They stopped to make camp in the land of frost and were about 2 days from Taki. The next day, they passed through the land of hot water and headed slightly south on the path towards Taki. The farthest south that they would go was actually the Valley of the End, on the border of Fire Country and Rice Country. During the entire trip, she had thought about just taking off, and hoping that no one caught up to her, and to be honest, if she flew, she could probably pull it off. However, if she did that, then she would most likely be labeled as missing in one way or another, returned to Taki if she was caught. It was at the Valley of the End where what she had been fearing all along happened. As they were crossing the gap, jumping across the 2 statues of Senju Harishima and Uchiha Madara, Shibuki made the jump first with Fu second and her team last. As Shibuki landed, he pushed off the statue back towards Fu with a look of killing intent in his eyes. Before Fu was able to react, Shibuki had driven a kunai deep into her gut, punching her in the face as well. 3 more sharp pains immediately followed as her sensei and teammates drove their kunais into her back, 2 into her lungs and 1 into the liver. They really did do it. They really did kill me, thought Fu as she plunged down the waterfall and into the river below. Shibuki and her team stood at the top of Madara's head looking down with a satisfied look on their faces. To them, they had finally managed to get rid of Taki's demon. Those spots had all been kill spots on the body, and they were certain there would be no way she would survive that. About a quarter mile down the river, Fu finally resurfaced, struggling to catch her breath as blood filled her lungs. She managed to keep consciousness for a few seconds before slipping into darkness. She was dying. Unbeknownst to her, Chomei had begun filling her system with demonic chakra in hopes of keeping Fu alive long enough to get help. While Chomei and her weren't really that close, the Nanabi had shown Fu some respect for enduring what she had, and the last thing she wanted to see was Fu tossed aside like this to die. "Help, can anyone hear me?" the Nanabi called out, letting out a small burst of her chakra to carry her message. Night came and Chomei was doing everything she could to keep Fu alive while the green-haired Kunoichi drifted downstream. It was at this point where she wished she had the regeneration abilities of the Kyuubi. Morning came and Chomei was struggling. If help didn't come today, Fu was most certainly going to die. "Help, can anyone hear me?" the Nanabi called out for probably the last time. "Chomei, is that you?" Chomei's call was responded this time by another Bijou who managed to pick up the same frequency. Thankfully for her, it was Kurama, someone who had actually come to her rescue. End flashback. And that's where my story ended. "I thought I was dead, but apparently not," said Fu. Silence filled the room until a massive ki took over. Everyone's attention turned to see a chakra cloak begin to envelop Naruto. This was not Naruto calling on the Kyuubi's chakra. No, this was a pissed-off Bijou who wanted nothing more than to rip Taki a new one 9 times over. "Shit. Hold him down before he does something stupid," ordered Tsunade. Immediately, everyone there dove on top of Naruto, pinning him to the ground. "What the hell are you doing?" shouted Naruto in his mindscape. "What does it look like I'm doing?" "I'm going to go kill those bastards," declared Kurama. "Just stop it," ordered Naruto. "And why should I do that? I know you want to kill them as much as I do." "I can feel it," said Kurama. "I'm not saying just to let them go, but if you force your way out now, there's no way in hell or Osenin will ever release this seal and you'll never get your freedom," argued Naruto. "Just wait. The time will come when we can show them not to mess with us." Kurama let out a slight growl. "Fine. I'll hold off for now, but the day will come when I will kill them without mercy. I will feast upon their pathetic village and laugh, as they learn what happens when you piss off a demon. Honestly, I don't blame you. I want a piece of their ass as much as you do. But I'm just saying it would do more harm than good right now," said Naruto. Outside his mindscape, the chakra cloak began to recede and Naruto was let up from being restrained. "Hey, sorry about that." Naruto let out a nervous laugh and rubbed the back of his head. "Furball's pissed. Am I correct?" asked Tsunade. Naruto nodded. "With all respects, I think we are all pissed at what Taki tried to pull," spoke Kiba. Akamaru growled as well and then hopped over to Fu's bed and curled up on her lap. "Well anyways, that solves that problem," said Tsunade. "Huh? What do you mean?" asked Sakura. "Is this regarding what's going to happen to Fu?" Tsunade nodded. "I hate to use this analogy, but it's the best one that fits. One village's trash is another one's treasure." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Fu's not trash," retorted Ino. Tsunade simply laughed, but it was Shino who spoke up. "It means that when Taki tried to kill her, they forfeited all rights to her as a shinobi of Takigakure. To them, She is trash that they simply threw away. But to us. So does that mean, exclaimed Fu, getting an excited smile on her face. Yep, welcome to Konoha, replied Tsunade. Now, before all of you run off and celebrate, there's a few things we need to get straight. I'll work out some form of living arrangements later, but I assume you're going to take up the duties as a shinobi of this village? Hi, exclaimed a happy Fu. Very well said Tsunade, pulling out a Konoha head protector from her cloak and tossing it to Fu. You'll be starting off as a Jinan. I would allow you to join in on the final Chunin fights for a chance at a promotion, but you'll be lucky if I even let you out of here to watch the matches. That's fine, she said. I'll also get you assigned to a team here shortly and you can begin once you're cleared for active duty. As for your status as a Jinchuriki, we're going to be keeping that a close secret. The only people who will know are those in this room right now and anyone I deem it's necessary that they know. I don't want to give you the impression that this is a Jinchuriki paradise because it's not. Just ask Foxboy over there. An angry mob nearly tried to kill him on his last birthday because of his status. Although I will admit that things are getting better for him. However, by keeping your status as a close secret, that should allow you to live a normal life here, explained Tsunade. That's fine. I would be lying if I said I didn't expect that. As long as I've got people who I can actually call a friend, said Fu, looking around at everyone and getting a bunch of smiles in return. I'll be just fine. Good, and I don't want the rest of you talking about it either. Just use some sort of code like Naruto does, said Tsunade. And I'm also going to have Jiraiya take a look at your seal, make sure it's stable so we don't have the Nanabi creating chaos. Actually, she's not that bad. She can be a little energetic and hyper at times, but it's not like she wants to destroy your village or kill anyone, said Fu, except those bastards in Taki, thought Kurama and Chomei at the same time. Looks like we've got two Jinchuriki who won't have too much of a problem controlling their Bijuu's chakra, thought Tsunade. That may be, but I just need to be sure. I'm also going to have to book you an appointment with Inoiki. I need those memories of what happened documented in case Taki comes poking their heads around. Sadly, all good things must come to an end as Tsunade kicked everyone out so that she could do a proper checkup on Fu's wounds. Still, the tan, mint green-haired Kunoichi couldn't be happier right now. Everyone scattered fairly quick, leaving Naruto and Hinata alone in the middle of the street, which was fine. Naruto actually had to go shopping for clothes as the outfit that he had gotten in Kumo was of fairly low quality and was already starting to wear. Hinata dragged Naruto to the clothing store where she got his jacket that one year and the one that her family frequently shops at. Naruto hesitantly entered, fearing he would get kicked out like at every other store that he went into, but he was surprisingly mistaken. Well, if it isn't Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Hinata. Those were some great fights the two of you had, said the store owner. Naruto was slightly confused. He wasn't getting shoved out of the store or charged for even stepping foot inside the store, but it was apparent that the owner had actually witnessed Naruto's fight in Kumo. The owner was a male, probably in his early 30s with short brown hair and a pencil mustache above his upper lip. Don't worry, I'm not going to throw you out. After seeing you stand up to that monster, I want to say that you've earned my respect and I do want to humbly apologize for any misconceptions I may have had in the past. Thanks said Naruto. Sorry, I'm Fuzaku Michigo, owner of the best clothing store in Konoha. And if I'm correct, the origin of that orange jacket you used to wear. By the way, what happened to it? Asked Michigo. It kind of got destroyed when I took an acid ball for a friend in the exam, said Naruto. I am impressed that it lasted that long and took something like that to destroy it. Well, I would certainly hope so. My clothing lines for shinobi are the best after all. Now, what can I do for you? Asked Michigo. Are you here for kimonos for the Festival of the Budding Leaf that's in a little over a week away? The Festival of the Budding Leaf was effectively the celebration of the founding of Konoha, and unlike the Kyuubi festival, Naruto was left alone on this night. He just never went because that event was usually an event where families and friends went too. However, he actually had friends that he could go with this year. And based on the way Hinata was squeezing his arm, it was obvious that she really did want to go with him. Actually, I came here to get a new ninja outfit. I kind of got this one after my jacket was destroyed in Kumo, but it's wearing already, said Naruto. Michigo took a quick look over the blonde. Poor quality indeed. I'm not surprised Kumo would give you something like this, he said. I was wondering if you have this same outfit, only one that won't wear away, asked Naruto. I think I can hook you up with something, said Michigo as he went in the back room of the shop. At that time, Naruto's eye was drawn to a kimono display, in particular a certain design that was also his size. It was a burnt orange kimono with a black flame pattern at the base that faded into the rest of the kimono. It wasn't a formal kimono or something he would wear if he was ever invited to dinner with Hinata's family. It was a more casual design, perfect for festivals. Find something you like?" said Michigo, appearing out of nowhere with a smile on his face and startling Naruto. Before Naruto could react, Hinata was pulled into him by Michigo. "You know, the festival is a perfect night for couples." This caused the two to blush slightly. "Well, I don't know," said Naruto hesitantly. "You see, I'm kind of leaving sometime soon after the final matches, but I don't know when." Naruto then did the one thing that will make any man succumb. He looked down at Hinata with her round, pleading eyes and what appeared to be the beginning of a tear. "Fine, I'll talk with Uro-sennin and make sure we're not leaving till after the festival," sighed Naruto. Hinata wrapped herself around Naruto with a big smile on her face. Naruto left the store having spent what he used to spend for clothes after all the shops overcharged him. Only this time he had 3 pairs of black ninja pants, 3 long-sleeved orange shirts, a black vest that resembled the one he had in Kumo, only it had scroll pockets on the front instead of 2 large pockets, and he also got the red Uzumaki swirl embroidered onto it. He also ended up with that orange kimono and a happy Hinata after promising to go with her to the festival. All in all, he spent about 4,000 Rio, the same he used to pay, only he got about 4 times as much clothes and they were better quality. Now, all they had to do was find Uro-sennin. He was actually much harder to find. Naruto's first choice to look was at the hot spring, but Jiraiya surprisingly wasn't there. It took nearly an hour of he and Hinata running all over Konoha to find him coming out of the hospital after having his jaw looked at and checking on Fu's seal. "Uro-sennin," shouted Naruto. "Gaki!" growled Jiraiya. He still didn't like Naruto calling him Uro-sennin in public. "So what's up with you two?" "Hey, I wanted to ask if we could leave after the festival that's coming next week," said Naruto. Jiraiya got that perverted look on his face. "Oh, and I suppose you two wanted to go," he giggled Jiraiya. "Gah! Stop thinking like a pervert," shouted Naruto as Hinata began to blush a little. "Well, seeing as me and Hinata wouldn't see each other for years, we were hoping you could cut us some slack and not leave until after the festival." Fine, we'll leave 2 weeks from now." Meaning 2 days after the festival. "That should give you plenty of time too." Jiraiya glanced towards Hinata and got that perverted look on his face, only flustering Naruto more and turning Hinata red. "Damn pervert," thought Naruto. The following day, Fu was sitting in her hospital bed. The doctors had said that she was healing good, and that there was a good chance that she would be permitted to attend the finals in 2 days. She was slightly disappointed that she wouldn't get to participate, but that disappointment completely vanished whenever she turned her head to either look out the window or look over at the stuff on her bedside table. The picture and get well cards were signs that there were people who actually cared for her, something she had lost when Shibi had died. It was actually a funny coincidence when Shino and his father, who was also named Shibi, came to visit earlier. Next to the picture, rested her new headband. For her, it was more than just a headband, it was a sign of hope. Even though she had nearly died, she defied the odds and was able to get away from the hellhole that was Taki. It signified a new chance for her, one where she could have a chance to start over and where there would actually be people who care for her. A knock came on the door and Shino stepped inside. "Hello," he said. "How are you doing today, Shino?" "Nice of you to stop by," said Fu, letting a slight smile come onto her face. "I'm actually doing much better." "So what did you stop by for?" "I came to offer you a proposition," said Shino. "Huh?" asked Fu, tilting her head and looking at him with a slightly confused look. "What are you talking about?" "My clan would like to offer you a place to stay at our compound," said Shino. "Huh? And why would they do that?" "Is it because of what's inside me?" asked Fu, now a little taken back. "I won't lie and say that is not a reason. They are curious about the Nanabi. I have told you about my clan's practices about us being living hives for our insects, and while that is normally the case for anyone living in our compound, they have agreed to make an exception for you," said Shino. "But that is not why I requested that you be allowed to live there. I asked because I see you as a close friend and I felt that it would honestly be best for you. I believe that my clan and I can be beneficial to your development, and also that we are some of the only people in Konoha who may be able to relate to you. Besides maybe Naruto." Due to their clan practices of implanting a colony of insects into their children at birth, the Iburames were often seen as weird and even treated as outcasts by some of the non-shinobi population. However, this didn't bother them as they were supported by the rest of their clan. Still, they had some idea of the way Jinchuriki were treated, even if it was to a lesser extent than an actual Jinchuriki. At first, Fu wasn't quite sure what to think. She didn't want to stay there because of the Nanabi, but began to think differently when Shino gave the second half of his reasons. "Are you sure there aren't any other reasons why you want me to live with your family?" asked Fu, almost teasingly. "Are there?" "Yes. To me, You are a close friend and I feel this will only help strengthen our friendship, said Shino. Fu smiled and even managed a slight blush. I guess she saw this as Shino's way of flirting with her. He may seem kind of weird at first, but he's a good guy and even kind of cute, thought Fu. Thank you, I'll consider it. Please do. Now, I am sorry, but I must go and prepare for the matches tomorrow, said Shino before leaving. To say the stands were packed would be an understatement. For Konoha, this was a huge treat for them. They weren't expecting another Chunin exam in almost 2 years, and the most recent exam was interrupted when Orochimaru attacked. What only made things better was that these 10 competitors had done what most couldn't believe. They had pissed Kumo off more than anyone in Konoha, save the Yellow Flash, had done. And it didn't stop there. Word had spread about Naruto's victory over the Jinchuriki of the Rakubi. At first, most people ignored it, but word spread rapidly and now people were beginning to ask the question, who really is Uzumaki Naruto? And for the first time, some people saw the blonde as something other than the demon brat. What some of them saw was a young ninja with a ton of potential, standing against a raging Jinchuriki, and come out the victor. In fact, if there was anyone who was a demon brat right now, it would probably have to be Hyuga Shinji. If there was one thing that had spread around Konoha faster than news of Naruto's victory, faster than Konoha's triumph, faster than even the last Uchiha's victory, it was the shameful stunt that Shinji pulled. There were people all over Konoha calling for Shinji to be sealed, but the only thing saving him was his main branch status in the Hyuga clan. Of course, the main branch Hyugas always get away with everything. Over in the Lord's box, there were already some preliminary bets going around, even before the matchups had been generated. Most of Lords in the area had dropped everything they were doing to come and watch these exams. After all, who wouldn't pass up this opportunity to gamble with one another? The energy in the stadium suddenly erupted as the 10 Chunin candidates were led onto the field. The time that everyone had been waiting for had arrived. The 10 candidates arrived in the middle of the arena and turned to face the crowds as Genma walked onto the field to begin. Congratulations all of you. You all accomplished something that even I never thought would happen, Genma said to the competitors. Now, you all know the rules. These will be one-on-one matches. Anything goes, but the match ends when I say it ends. As there are 10 of you, there will be 5 matches. Genma held out a sack in front of everyone. In here are 10 numbered balls. Each of you will draw one, and that will determine the matchups. The sack was passed around and everyone took their ball. Now, starting with 1, please read your numbers off. 1 said Shinji. 2 said Hinata. 3 said Sakura. 4 said Tamari. 5 said Lee. 6 said Neji. 7 said Shino. 8 said Gaara. 9 said Naruto. 10 said Sasuke. Very good, said Genma. The matches will go as followed. Match 1, Hyuga Shinji vs Hyuga Hinata. Match 2, Haruno Sakura vs Sabaku no Tamari. Match 3, Rock Lee vs Hyuga Neji. Match 4, Aburame Shino vs Sabaku no Gaara. Match 5, Uzumaki Naruto vs Uchiha Sasuke. As Hiyashi was moving to his seat, he found himself confronted by the 3 Hyuga elders. Hiyashi didn't like this. He could tell the elders were up to something. Hanabi, why don't you go and find our seats, he said, motioning to Hanabi. And so what do I owe this pleasure to? You 3 aren't up to anything, are you? Come now, Hiyashi, what would make you think that? Asked Harabi, shaking his son's assumption aside. In the spirit of this event, we felt it would be more interesting to make this match more than just fighting for some silly promotion. Hiyashi could definitely tell something was up. He wasn't the Hyuga head for nothing. He knew how to read people, and right now, the Hyuga elders had trickery and deception written all over their faces. However, he decided that he would at least hear them out. What is it that you have in mind? Asked a cautious Hiyashi. We feel that if Hinata is not able to win this match, then she is not worthy of being in the main branch. While we initially agreed to wait until she was 16, we saw this as a good opportunity to measure her potential. Surely you must agree that if she cannot win here, you would just be wasting your time on her over the next 3 years, said Moriko. So that's the game they are playing, thought Hiyashi. This was simply another one of their ploys to brand Hinata. What do you say, do we have ourselves a wager? Asked Tyro. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here.